Good evening, folks. Tonight we bring you a very special news broadcast. After allegations of corruption and involvement in the Watergate scandal, President Nixon has officially resigned as President of the United States. Because of this recent development, while the end of his presidency was marked by scandal, we would like to take a look at President Nixon's presidency as a whole. Today, we turn to Kareem Fawad, an expert in politics, for this special report. How are you, Kareem?
I'm doing just fine, Griffin. Thank you very much for asking. Very polite of you. Earlier today, President Richard Nixon became the first president to ever resign from office. In his resignation speech, he noted, and I quote, "I have concluded that because of the Watergate matter, I might not have the support of the Congress that I would consider necessary to back the very difficult decisions and carry out the duties of this office in the way the interests of the nation would require." And then, going along with this statement, he later said, "Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective noon tomorrow." In doing so, Vice President Ford officially becomes president for the next 2.5 years.
So, Kareem, where does Nixon's presidential career really begin?
Well, Griffin, you could say it began with the assassination of RFK, Robert F. Kennedy. During his speech in the Ambassador's Hotel in Los Angeles, he got assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan, and his opponent, Hubert Humphrey, ended up getting the Democratic nomination, and Nixon ended up winning the election of 1968.
Well, that election was really a squeaker now, wasn't it, Kareem?
That's right, Griffin. Along with Humphrey, Nixon also had to face Gerald Wallace, or George Wallace, actually, who was notorious for his extremely racist views. That's why he gained so many votes in the South.
Well, didn't Wallace win more electoral votes than any other third-party candidate so far in our history?
Yes. I cut you off there because I knew exactly what you were going to say.
Okay,
so I said
fair
yes.
enough. So, after he became president, what did he do?
He did what everyone does. He partied hard, hired some hosts.
After he became president, what did he do?
What do any presidents really do? No, I'm just joking, Griffin. You know, he did many things. He did changes to the Supreme Court, made changes to the Supreme Court, actually. See, during Nixon's presidency, Earl Warren retired, and he was the Chief Justice, very known for
Many things. He changed his career.
During Nixon's presidency, Earl Warren retired. He was the Chief of Justice, famous for making very liberal decisions, and he was also known for developing the rights of the defendant.
So, what were some of his important decisions in the Supreme Court?
Well, one of the cases he had to deal with was the Brown versus Board of Education, which helped eliminate segregation in public schools. Another helped develop the Miranda rights, which let you know of your rights when you're being arrested. You probably know about this.
Yes, I've been arrested quite a few times. So that's very interesting. Who did he replace Earl Warren with?
Well, he replaced Earl Warren with Warren Burger, mainly to try to put down the liberalism in the Supreme Court. But contrary to belief, Warren Burger did much of the same things that Earl Warren did.
So that plan kind of backfired on Nixon.
Yup. One of the big liberal decisions by Warren Burger was Roe v. Wade, which had to do with abortion, and it actually made abortion legal.
Oh, that was very controversial, wasn't it?
Yes, it was very controversial.
Well, what were some of the other things that Nixon did?
Well, Nixon is very famous for his Great Society programs. But before that, let me get to the Philadelphia Plan. The Philadelphia Plan was a plan in Philadelphia that helped desegregate workplaces.
I also heard that it forced labor unions to hire a certain number of
minorities.
Minority
Yes, that is also true. And another thing that he did was the Great Society programs, which I mentioned earlier. And this was for the low-income citizens who were elderly, blind, disabled, and these included the Social Security SSI, which were social supplement income, which gave benefits to
the same people.
No, there's no way we can keep that.
Yeah, got it.
Nixon aided in the development of the Philadelphia Plan. The Philadelphia Plan, which originated in Philadelphia, helped desegregate workplaces in Philadelphia, but later was expanded to all over the U.S.
Didn't the Philadelphia Plan also require a certain number of minority workers as apprentices to the trade unions?
Yep, that is true, Griffin. And another thing that Nixon did is he also developed the Great Society programs. Things such as the SSI, Social Security, Social Supplement Income, which is the SSI. And it gave benefits and is paid by the U.S. Treasury. Instead of Social Security taxes, these were all part of the Social Security amendments. And the people who could qualify were the blind, the elderly, or the permanently disabled.
Oh, very nice. And of course, we can't forget about Nixon's administration's involvement in the creation of the Environmental Protection Organization.
Yes, the good old EPA. Of course we can't. The EPA was created due to the rising concern of the environment. And this concern was because of Rachel Carn's book, Silent Spring. Do you have the book with you?
I actually do. It's right here, Kareem.
Mind reading an excerpt?
Oh, I would love to. The chemicals to which life is asked to make its adjustment are no longer merely calcium and silica and copper, and all the rest of the minerals washed out of the rocks and carried into the rivers and to the sea. They are the synthetic creations of man's inventive mind, brewed in his laboratories and having no counterparts in nature.
Oh, is that it?
That is it, Kareem.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It truly is.
It made me want to do something.
Yeah, it...
Well, anyways, along with that, Nixon also signed the Clean Air Act, which was a part of the EPA, which cleaned air.
Yes.
Yep. It eliminated hazardous pesticides or pollutants in the air. He also signed the Endangered Species Act.
Ah, very nice. That's the one that protects endangered animals, right? And their habitats as well.
What else would it protect? Endangered Species Act.
Yeah, well, that makes perfect sense.
It makes sense to me. Oh, another thing that... Cut. Yes, President Nixon wasn't only an environmentalist. He also made some economic decisions, such as the inflation/wage freeze that he declared on television.
Oh, I actually believe that we have a clip of that here in the studio.
Oh.
Okay, Greg, could you go find that, please? Thank you. We will be right back in a moment after a message from our sponsors.
The second indispensable element of the new prosperity is to stop the rise in the cost of living. One of the cruelest legacies of the artificial prosperity produced by war is inflation. Inflation robs every American, every one of you. The 20 million who are retired and living on fixed incomes, they are particularly hard hit. Homemakers find it harder than ever to balance the family budget. And 80 million American wage earners have been on a treadmill. For example, in the 4 war years between 1965 and 1969, your wage increases were completely eaten up by price increases. Your paychecks were higher, but you were no better off. We have made progress against the rise in the cost of living. From the high point of 6% a year in 1969, the rise in consumer prices has been cut to 4% in the first half of 1971. But just as is the case in our fight against unemployment, we can and we must do better than that. The time has come for decisive action, action that will break the vicious circle of spiraling prices and costs. I am today ordering a freeze on all prices and wages throughout the United States for a period of 90 days. In addition, I call upon corporations to extend the wage price freeze to all dividends. I have today appointed a cost of living council within the government. I have directed this council to work with leaders of labor and business to set up the proper mechanism for achieving continued price and wage stability after the 90-day freeze is over. Let me emphasize two characteristics of this action. First, it is temporary. To put the strong, vigorous American economy into a permanent straitjacket would lock in unfairness. It would stifle the expansion of our free enterprise system. And second, while the wage price freeze will be backed by government sanctions, if necessary, it will not be accompanied by the establishment of a huge price control bureaucracy. I am relying on the voluntary cooperation of all Americans, each one of you, workers, employers, consumers, to make this freeze work. Working together, we will break the back of inflation, and we will do it without the mandatory wage and price controls that crush economic and personal freedom.
Avast!
On guard. Off guard.
Oh,
Something.
Oh, we're live. We're live. We're live. Wait, are we filming?
Yep, I see a red light.
Oh, okay. Well, Kareem, I remember that very well. I'm still a little confused about what it did for our country, and I'm sure many other viewers are as well.
Well, you know what it was, Thunder. Don't mind that. What it was a 90-day price/wage freeze. And what it was intended to do was to reduce the inflation of the economy. What it was at 6%, and Nixon was able to reduce that to 4%. And what it really was is he wanted to get reelected. And he knew that there was an election coming up in 1972, and it was going to be against McGovern.
Well, that makes perfect sense. It seems like it was a very, very good political move on his part.
Yes, great political move. He actually ended up winning the election.
By 520 votes.
Yes, thanks for rudely cutting me off. Yeah, he was going to win by 500, and he won.
Yes,
he got 500, but he got 500.
520 electoral
And
votes.
he ended up being the president again.
Yep. So I'm sorry, Kareem. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave now. That's
Yep.
all the time we have.
Yep, I'll be going back to my home.
Yep.
With my beautiful wife and kids. Who am I kidding? I'm going back to a boss. Goodbye.
Okay.